Morning. So something that I wanted to share and discuss with you today is something that I've read online, and it kind of got me a little bit, let's say, passionate. It kind of sparked a little bit of a stir in me, and I was a little bit like, why are we even having these conversations in the first place? So they're essentially, from what I'm assuming is there's been questions around, when do I take a young person or a child seriously when they say that they don't want to be alive anymore, they want to end their own life, I want to kill myself, when those kinds of comments are present or heard. So for me, I was a little bit like, how is this even a question? How are we even sitting here saying, oh, when do I take you seriously? Because we should be taking those kind of comments seriously every single time that we hear them. It doesn't matter if a child says it 3, 4, 5 or 600 times. What matters is that those words have been said. Now, it's important to be aware of everybody's differing needs and where that kind of language is coming from for each child. So, for example, suicidal ideation for A child and B child may be two very different things. So some children may very well be experiencing very impulsive or intrusive thoughts around ending their own life, but perhaps don't have a plan in place to carry out the act of ending their own life. However, other children may very well have a specific plan in place, a specific date in place, and know exactly how they wish to carry out the act of ending their own life. And so it's at that point where you may intervene in different ways. There may be a different intervention in place for those both children, but ultimately both of those children are having thoughts or feelings around ending their own life. But it doesn't mean that I give A child support because they've got a plan, but B child, well, they haven't got a plan, they're just saying it. It doesn't matter. What matters is that child is getting the support that they need to manage these thoughts or feelings that are occurring for them. So we shouldn't really be sitting having these thoughts or conversations around, well, do I believe them or not? Because it doesn't matter whether you believe them as an individual. That needs to be set aside. What matters is, as a professional, you are providing the right support for the children that you are working with, and it doesn't matter how many times a child says this kind of language of, I want to end my own life, I don't want to be here, I want to die. It doesn't matter how many times that is said. What matters is that the time is spent to support that child with whatever needs that they need to be met at that time. Something else that kind of I got the feel of was around behaviours that harm, and how sometimes children are engaging in behaviours that harm which are superficial, and so that they must just be attention seeking. Again, this was a little bit of something that instantly kind of made me very passionate, shall we say. It was a little bit of a, why are these conversations even occurring in the first instance? So when we hear language like attention seeking behaviour, it baffles me a little bit, because to seek attention, or to seek our needs being met, which is what's happening when we seek attention, is a basic human need of every single human being in this whole entire world. It's wired into us to seek connection, and if we're not seeking, if we're not getting that connection, or our needs are not being met, then we will find a way to seek it out. So I don't understand why attention seeking is kind of added as a negative connotation. So, well, they're only saying that to get your attention, or they're only engaging in those behaviours that harm because they're crying out for attention. So seeking attention and getting our needs met is a basic human being, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's a basic human being need, you know. That's what we do as humans. We seek each other's connection. That's what we do. And B, it doesn't matter if a child is seeking your attention or how they're seeking your attention. What matters is they need your attention, because their needs are not being met. So what matters is, again, we come back to, we need to put some of our, beliefs and thoughts aside to an extent, because it doesn't matter whether I believe the child. It doesn't matter whether I think that child's just seeking my attention. What matters is that child's needs are being met. And if they're not being met, then they are going to seek their needs to be met in whatever way they possibly can. So sometimes that may be in a way of, if I scream, shout at you, I know how you're going to respond to me, and that means that I feel safe because I can preempt your behaviour based on my behaviour. If I do X, Y, Z, I know the outcome, and that makes me feel safe. And so they'll do that. And same way as if their needs are not being met, they will come and seek a way for their needs to be met. And if that is in a way that's not particularly the most impactful for them, or isn't the safest of ways, their needs are being met irrespective of, you know, behaviours that harm, their needs being met. So what we need to do is address children's needs and perhaps support children to find a way to allow their needs to be met, but in a way that's safer, or in a way that's not going to harm them in the long term. So it's always coming back to children's needs and how we as professionals can help support children to have their needs met. Every child's needs will be different, and everything that's in place for every child will be different. But it's important that we take the time to make the effort to make sure their needs are met, and don't just say, yeah, but that's just superficial attention seeking. Or, yes, but you've said that 3-4 times, do I believe you? Do I believe that you're going to carry out the act of ending your own life? Those conversations should not be happening. Conversations should and need to be focused on children's needs and how we as professionals can support them to have their needs being met.